Hello and welcome everybody. My name's Liz from Lizzie's Lot on TikTok and Instagram, and I thought it was about time that I branched out onto YouTube. As a certified yapper, I think I'm going to love long form content. Just to tell you a little bit about me before we get started. So I'm 32 years old, I live in the UK and I work full time. I try and travel as much as I can around my full-time job. I visited nearly 60 countries and that's across 5 of the 7 continents. So those are my credentials. If you want to find me on Instagram and TikTok or even Facebook, I am just Lizzie's Lot across all platforms. Now that we've got that out of the way, we most recently took a trip from London Euston through to Glasgow Central and we went on the Caledonian Sleeper, and I thought it'd be brilliant to be able to take you along with us. So let's start with where you're able to get the Caledonian Sleeper from. So for many years they've been offering a service from London Euston and Crewe up to Fort William, Inverness, Aberdeen, Glasgow and Edinburgh. And there are a whole bunch of other stops a little bit further on. So if you want to have a little look at those, it's probably best to go down on the website. But more recently, they have been offering a starting point from Birmingham International since January 2026, I think it was. And even though we're closer to Birmingham, we chose to go down to London so that we could have the full experience. Now, there are 4 different types of accommodation available on the Caledonian Sleeper, starting from the cheapest, which is an upright seat in the seating coach. These will set you back at approximately £50 to £80 depending on the day. Then the next available level of accommodation is the classic room, which is what we had, which is 2 bunk beds and a sink. We didn't have a ensuite. However, the next step up from that is a classic room with an ensuite. The one without an ensuite costs, I think it's between £210 to about £270. But then in order to add the toilet to the room, it goes from about £270 to about 300-ish. And last but not least, you've got these suites with an ensuite. So this is a double bedroom with a ensuite attached. And these can be as high as £525, but I have also seen them at about £400. Clearly the level of comfort is reflected in the price, because the less comfortable the seating or sleeping arrangement, the cheaper the ticket is. There are also accessible rooms available for passengers travelling with wheelchairs or any other mobility device. Prices do fluctuate depending on the proximity of the trip and the time of year, but all of these prices that I've just listed are based on August 2026. So I was kind of aiming for the kids' holidays being most expensive to highball my estimates. No matter what accommodation you do choose, you will have access to a sleep kit, which includes a tartan sleep mask as well as earplugs. There's also plug sockets and USB charging, as well as a reading light. That's in the seated and the classic bunks. But then when you get a little bit more bougie and you invest in a classic bunk with an ensuite, you also get breakfast included in the dining carriage, and you also have access to the lounge, and the same goes with the ensuite rooms. You get access to their Caledonian Sleeper lounge before boarding, as well as breakfast on board. Now, we went for the peasant version, so I don't get to show you what that was like. Laid out on our bed next to our sleep kit was the menu for the food and drinks in the dining cart, as well as the menu for breakfast in the morning. So the way that works is that there's a list for you to choose from. You tick what option you want, you pay that evening, and it gets delivered to you in the morning. We went for a traditional Scottish breakfast, but you could also pick a continental breakfast, a vegan breakfast, and there are some lighter options such as a porridge or a bacon or sausage roll. I'm sure that when the weather's a little bit better and the sunsets are probably a bit better, there's an allure to staying up and drinking in the bar or maybe meeting interesting characters. But we were cream crackered, so as soon as we pulled off from London Euston, we went straight to sleep. So the good news is we were right by the toilets. The bad news is we were right by the toilets. This could keep some people up. Luckily, I'm a pretty heavy sleeper, so I slept through it. However, my Fitbit does say that I only had 2 hours sleep, which is weird because while it wasn't the most restful night's sleep I've ever had, I also feel like I got more than 2 hours. And my boyfriend, his Fitbit said that he got no sleep at all, and we wondered if that was due to the motion of the train, because it is quite rocky. I found that soothing, others might not. Kellogg, however, our dog, he had no problem sleeping. He slept like a baby basically the whole journey. This is probably a really good time for me to tell you that you are able to bring up to 2 pets on the Caledonian Sleeper with you. There is a £30 surcharge for cleaning canine rooms, but there is no stops en route for them to go to the toilet. They won't be able to get off at any point to do their business. Our breakfast was delivered just after sunrise at about 6:45, and we'd opted for the traditional Scottish breakfast, which consisted of an oatcake, a sausage, a lawn sausage, bacon, black pudding, haggis, mushrooms and a poached egg. God, it's like a family fortunes game. Unfortunately, ants boiled egg was, well, it was a boiled egg, it wasn't a poached egg anymore. And my poached egg had split and it was all gelatinized on the bottom of the container. So that wasn't great. And also the food was really, really hot, but like not in a good way, in a it's been left under a heat lamp for hours kind of way. So for all of that, as well as a coffee and a cereal bar, and it delivered to your room, it's only £13 each, which I don't think is too bad. I would have liked it a bit less cooked though. Not long after our breakfast, we realised we'd only got a few minutes to get ourselves together, so we put on our clothes, picked up our bags, and we got off the sleeper, ready to embark on our little journey through Scotland. Burning question being, is the Caledonian Sleeper worth it? The idea behind the sleeper train is that you're not paying for accommodation on top of travel, you're able to amalgamate the two. So rail travel can set you back between £178 and £278 for two people from London to Glasgow on a direct service. And the average cost of a budget hotel in London at the moment is about £100, but realistically the average price of a hotel is about £130. So if you take an average of both of those figures, you divide the hotel price between two people, but then also remember that the rail fare is for two people. So adding that together takes you to sort of just over £200, depending on the type of room that you get with a Caledonian Sleeper. I think depends on the value for money. The type of room that we chose, at the time that we chose, it was about £400. So I'm not quite sure that it does level out budget-wise. As an experience, if you really like trains, it's probably a really fun experience for you to be able to say that you've done. For us, because we didn't leave the room very much, the sunset wasn't sunsetting, the sunrise wasn't sunrising, and the views were a little bit grey. I wouldn't say it was the most incredible experience, but it probably was good value for money. I think it all depends what you're trying to achieve. If you're trying to fit a lot into a short space of time, then it's definitely worth it. If you'd rather have a luxurious train journey where you can look out the window and have a good night's sleep, maybe it's not for you. But with that being said, what do you think from this video? Would you travel on the Caledonian Sleeper? Have you already travelled on the Caledonian Sleeper? How did you find it? Let me know down below. And don't forget, if you did want to find me on any other platforms, I've linked in the description below all of my other handles, as well as some additional information for this video and all of my discount codes. So I guess that's the end of the video.